Hang on a minute. Right from the offset. We're unable to go live on Facebook. I just had an error while we've been launching it, so never mind.
Facebook. We don't need it.
So, welcome to this morning's Berardi and Coke. I'm joined by Jay. How are we feeling this morning, Jay?
Yeah, not too bad, actually. I went home for a change instead of staying out, so I'm not half dead this time, which is a pleasant change to the usual.
Cool. Right, we'll get an intro running, then we'll get into it.
Hi, this is Don Matteo, and you are listening to the Orta Know Better podcast. Let's do this.
Right, so before we get into the actual game,
go on.
How did it feel this morning, waking up knowing that we had 3 points and we're out of bottom three?
Oh, mate, what a difference. What a difference. A week ago we were down and it were over and it were doom and gloom. And now we're on the up and we're fighting. I could actually watch Match of the Day this morning.
Yeah, it was nice, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great.
Apparently, so Bren messaged me when I was on my way back to the car yesterday. I don't know how he accessed the game because it was during the 3 p.m. blackout, so he must have been abroad somewhere, and that's why he was not at the game yesterday.
Well, yeah, he does get about, doesn't he?
Yeah, he messaged me to say that I was on telly, but I kept an eye out a bit on Match of the Day and couldn't see it, so it must have just been in a live broadcast.
Yeah, they must have cut that bit.
I think it was the point that when Bella Ketchup or whatever his name is was were kicking off. You know, they'd time wasted for the first 76 minutes of the game.
Oh, yeah.
And then towards the end, they were getting really frustrated that we weren't rushing to take all of our free kicks and corners.
It was glorious. there's nothing more satisfying than seeing a team come and do that and get the tables turned on them.
Yeah, absolutely right. I did see a stat. It was, I think it was during the Everton game, they showed that Everton are the side with the second least average minutes of the ball in play in the league this season. But the first side with the least number of minutes of ball in play this season is us. The thing is, that's never us. How often have we been in a position to try and slow the play down because we've not had our noses in front?
That's in the thing. League. I mean, we've not been time wasting. We've just been really shit.
Really shit, and other teams, all of them coming to slow the play down.
Yeah,
all of them.
They do, always.
So yeah, it's really, really. I found it really enjoyable, and I think that what Bren was saying that he caught me on is I would absolutely piss myself because Bella Ketchup had come over and slammed the ball down in corner, ready for us to take our corner, and it'd been kicking off, and he were having a go at ref and everything. I just pissing myself going for over 70 minutes. You've slowed the play down. You've had people crawling off the pitch instead of jogging off. And, you know, when they were making subs in that last 10 minutes, they were sprinting off. And I was loving that.
Yeah.
It was ace.
Did one of them get booked kicking off because one of ours didn't go off fast enough?
Yeah. I can't remember who, 45, I think it was. I'll have to check the squad numbers. I can't remember who it was. But yeah, didn't he push Paddy off when Paddy were clapping people?
He did. I don't know if it was Paddy or that, I can't bloody remember, but he did push a player off and the ref booked him, yeah.
I think it was Paddy. Yeah, he did.
Did you see the lad who went down and he went down right on the line? His feet were still on the pitch, the other half in one, and they were like, drag him off! Drag him off! Get him off the field!
Unfortunately, you do get booked for that as well, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, there were a lot of get him off the field, I can't speak. Going off.
There was one of their lads as well who went down in their half and he went down holding his head, and then the physios come on. They were holding his foot. Yeah,
and then all of a sudden he didn't want any treatment to have to go off.
Yeah. I was really, really pleased that the ref, as shit as he was, and he was shit, I have to say, made him go off the field.
He was poor. The liner in front of us, I were in NEL, and the liner in front of us were really poor as well. Made a fair amount of mistakes. And do you know what? Was so tentative as well. You know, he'd half flag and then he'd change his mind and not flag at all and wait for the ref to do something. And then he'd just echo whatever the ref
mentioned that. I said the same thing. I said, this guy doesn't even put his flag up. I said something along the lines, he's probably getting $1,000 a game plus expenses, this bloke, and he's not even doing anything. He's not putting his flag up till the ref tells him what to put up. That's not supposed to be how a linesman works. And
you know, I feel bad for the ref at that point, because then the assistant referee, as we're meant to call them now, they're there to provide assistance. But if all you're going to do is wait for the ref to make a decision and then flag whatever the ref says, you're not giving them assistance at all. You're putting all of the emphasis on the ref to make that decision and not helping. There's literally no point being there other than to signal what the ref has given. That's it.
Exactly.
Adding no value at all. So
you're just there for display purposes at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. So they were poor, genuinely. Just and usually it's they were poor for us. And we did get shit refs, and you're not fit to referee a few times, which I do always have a chuckle at. There's no way that that's going to benefit a side, is it? No. There's no chance that any ref's going to hear that and go, well, I better give him some decisions. It's just not going to.
I always think that. I always think, oh, great, let's get his back up further. But it's so frustrating sometimes. You've got to say something. You
and we do get shit refs.
All the time.
But I think he was poor for both sides. You know, there were no. It wasn't one of those where you look at that and say, "Oh, well, they're biased." That he were poor for both sides.
Yeah.
The extension that I would say to that is both sides were poor as well. I didn't think that we played particularly well. But you know what? For how long have we been saying it's fine getting the performances? What we need is the points. If you're going to have it one way or the other, you take the points every time, don't you? You know, we have put in performances where I felt that we deserved more than we got. But to be fair, I think yesterday, even though we didn't play to our full level of capability by any stretch, I think they were so bad that we were still worth the win.
Yeah, they were so bad that, you know, we could have been probably even a bit worse than we were and still beat them. They were that bad. But I still feel like we were the better side, you know, even though both sides were crap. And that's a positive. That's something you got to take from it. I mean, you want to go out there and you want to smash teams like that, but sometimes you just have to take what you can get and scrap for it and get your rewards, you know. Yeah,
absolutely right. Absolutely right. And I felt if you look at a couple of performances, you know, if you look at Liam's comment here, and we can discuss who we think are ours, but Liam said, look, Firpo man of the match, he seems to be settling in at Leeds. There's been a couple of people agreeing, but then Liam himself has also put Bamford. Alisson's been in there saying, he's been good last couple of weeks. I think if we talk about performances, I think for me, one thing that really came to the fore is Weston McKennie's really starting to get what it is to be in the midfield at Leeds.
He needs to get what it is to play a pass for somebody to shoot from, though.
It does, but you know, if you look at, I'm skipping ahead slightly, but if you look at the last 10-15 minutes when we did have our noses in front, some of the touches and some of the capability that actually he and Ruta showed in possession, when down in the corner, holding the ball, showing some strength, because McKennie's got a lot of strength. They could not get past him to get to the ball.
He's a well-built guy.
He's a unit. Yeah, he's a unit.
Building people off.
And he did. He really brought that to the fore. I think I think there's more to come from him. He's come from a Champions League side, so you expect a certain level of capability, but so have some of the others that haven't shown the capability that we would like to have seen. So if we concentrate on the first half first, then, and if we reflect on how it felt at half time, how did you feel it all went?
Obviously, we started and we were all nervous as fuck because we were thinking, Jesus Christ, we've got to win this game, you know.
Yeah.
And it seemed to sort of go back and forth a little bit in the early stages of the first half. We seemed to get on top and then we lost our grip a bit and they got on top a little. But overall, I'd say we had the better of it than they did. And by the time half-time came, I was thinking, we've got a score here in this half. We were all over them, come the end of the first half. And obviously we didn't, but I felt we were a step above them by the time that half ended. And I felt like we had settled more into a bit of a rhythm. And you could clearly see the difference in our style of play and what Grazia had sort of altered in there. We'd gone from what we've seen with the everyone running around chasing the ball, trying to press immediately and get forward and whatever, to more of a slow, patient build where it were more like we were just keeping the ball, and then if an opportunity came up, we'd try and attack. And we tried that ball over the top a few times with Bamford, which, to be fair, I thought were going to come off eventually because he kept getting close to it. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but yeah, you could see the differences, and you could see that we didn't look like we were going to panic when they attacked or anything, which we have done in the past. I mean, you got to admit, even Koch had a great game yesterday at the back.
So just to touch on that, in terms of breaking the game into 4 chunks, I thought in the first 10 minutes, Aronson was at it. Well, no, not quite. But the first 10 minutes, Aronson really looked at it, and I thought, do you know what? A bit of a spell out has given him something to drive towards. He's been given his chance, and he looks to be taking it. I felt after the first 10 minutes, he kind of lost his way a bit. But in that first 10 minutes, he showed what we all saw when he first came into the side. And
yeah,
although I went, well, oh, come on now, joint top scorer in the Champions League season. But some people were saying, he's thin, he's slight, he's quick. Is this another Boyer that we've got on our hands?
Yeah,
and I felt it was a bit early to be saying that sort of thing, given what Boyer achieved with us. But we had seen that sort of impact that he was having early on, and he'd kind of lost his way a bit. And I'm thinking, is this his opportunity to go and show it? And he didn't carry it through, but he did look better in that first 10 minutes. I think for the rest of the half, I said at half time, Koch's been our best player.
Now, that must have been hard for you.
Not at all, because I stuck by, actually, what I was saying before is, if he's got a big dumb lump to play up against, he's a big dumb lump himself, and invariably comes out on top. He doesn't have to read a game. If he's man marking... Is it? If he's man marking somebody and doesn't have to read a game, then his inability to read a game doesn't come into it. And he marked him well. And if you look at even the size difference, I mean, Koch's not a small lad, but if you look at the size difference compared to the lad who were marking, I mean, he were a proper unit. And the amount of times now, the one thing I'll say about the ref is he didn't get really picky about when Koch got up in front of his man, got up above his man and over the top of him. He wasn't blowing up for that. And you do sometimes see refs blowing up for that. But if you just get up before your man, and that means that they're going to struggle to get off their feet, well, they should have jumped earlier for me.
You're right.
And I felt that Koch managed that situation really well. And for the rest of the first half, I thought, I mean, he didn't put a foot wrong. We've seen that he's got mistakes in him. He seems to manage that really well. I think it's absolutely massive that Verba was able to start the game. It's huge. He's so calming at the back, and you can see that the players around him benefit from his presence. We saw before that if we didn't have Cooper available and we were playing Koch and Llorente in the middle and what have you, they were both, they'd lose their heads so regularly that we really needed Cooper in there. I think Verba's offering the same, and it's massive that we see Cooper's spent a bit of time on the sidelines or on the treatment table. It's massive that he was available for us yesterday, because I would have been really worried about it. But
me too.
Just going back to your comment on Koch, I felt that especially in the rest of that first half, I felt that he was our best player. They were lumping it up, they were playing long ball, and he didn't give them anything.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Like you say, he's got the talent to do the job. Maybe he doesn't read the game as good as some of the other defenders, but he has got the talent there to do it, and he's shown that he can do it when he's got someone organising him.
Yeah, and I think that is the important point, is that organisation and that leadership. Now, Aylin's come back into the side as well. And I think that he's vice captain and he's got that ability of marshalling and talking. He talks all the way through the game as well. So as a centre half, if you've got Verber on one side and Ayling on the other, talking to you constantly, it can only benefit your game. And I think just if we stay along the back line, Liam's just mentioned him again there in terms of Firpo. If you look at Ayling, Koch, Verber and Firpo yesterday, I didn't think any of them really put a foot wrong.
No, I didn't. I'm absolutely shocked at Firpo coming out of his shell all of a sudden. Where's that been?
Well, I think if you look at, we talked about giving him an opportunity to get up to speed because he'd been out for a fair while. When he first came in, he took absolute pelters for the amount of space, control, and goals that we gave away against Spurs when we were still playing under Bielsa when he first came in. And I've really felt for him because we were doing man marking, and actually his man had gone to their left back position, so we tracked him in exactly the way that he'd been coached and told to track him. And then all of a sudden there were just gaping holes down our left-hand side that they took advantage of. Well, that was just down to coaching, and that was for Bielsa to be able to reflect on that and then make a change, which, that was one of the main frustrations with him is stick to what you know, stick to what you're good at, make plan A better if plan A doesn't work. But Firpo fell victim to that for me in that it looked like he had the athleticism to be able to cope with what was happening. We know that defensively he's not the most sound, but it looks good going forward. And I think if we had Bandy on here, he'd be telling us all about how he's an
inside left,
rather than a fullback. I think you see that he's more wing back than full back, and he does get forward. And I don't know if you got to see his interview afterwards or on Match of the Day, but he was talking about.
I can't remember what he said though.
But he started off as a striker, and then he was a winger, and then he's been converted into a defender. And what that lends him is that positional sense when he's pushing forward to understand where he needs to be in an attacking sense and to get into the box. So
it's basically reverse Gareth Bale.
Yeah, who gravitated forwards, didn't he? Yeah, that's right. He started as a left back and ended up front. Yeah, it's in essence. I think Gary Kelly, though, if you look at it, Gary Kelly started as a striker.
Did he?
And now I'm absolutely, before anybody gets in the comments, I'm absolutely not equating Firpo to Gary Kelly just yet. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
It's important that you made that distinction.
Yeah, but what he was saying is it gives him that appreciation of when he's in the box, is the positions to take and what point to arrive in. And I think that's a big deal. And he has had the impact. So I think you spoke about halftime, and we really should have, given the control that we've had in the game, we really should have had our noses in front. So we're going to the second half then. So up to the goal. In terms of control, it felt like we still had it. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I was surprised when I came back from my halftime refreshment to find that Aronson was still on the pitch. I thought he might have been subbed at halftime. It was that bad for me. He gets blown off the ball by a gust of wind.
He does.
And you've just got no hope when he gets the ball. And he's one of these players who he's sort of a tricky little player who gets into these tight channels and gets between people, but he's got no strength to carry the ball with him because he just gets shoved off it. And I felt like that were harming us quite a lot because he got into some good positions. He just couldn't do anything. And he really does need to bulk up a little. You don't want him to bulk up too much and lose his trickery and his agility, but there's got to be a balance somewhere, and he's on the wrong side of it for me at the moment.
Yeah, and we saw when Jack Harrison first came in, he didn't have the physicality that he does now. And I know that there's frustrations around Jack Harrison and his end product, but I like to see him playing because his first touch is so good. That actually, it doesn't matter where he is. He's an outlet for us if we can pick him out.
Did you see that long ball over they went to and they're at the corner of the box and he just brought it down like nothing?
Yeah.
And then the similar one went to Luke Ayling and he brought it down. It bounced up in there again.
And then your second touch is a tackle. And that actually, it's very, very unusual to see Jack give away the ball from his first touch. The second touch being a tackle is not something that you level at him. There are frustrations in the second half. There were a couple of times he could have picked somebody out at the back post and he put it into Kopp instead. So there definitely are frustrations. 100%, we need to take him off free kicks and corners. I don't think Willie's the answer, but one of the frustrations for me in that second half was we had a free kick sort of in Aileen's position, but just in their half. It were Jackie and Rocker that were stood over it, and Rocker's delivery is amazing. He gets so much pace and whip on it that puts question marks not only in the defender's mind but in the keeper's mind as well. If you can put it in that danger zone just over the defence, that any touch at all from defence or attack can result in a goal, and just bending it to that far post.
I felt like keeper were a little nervous at times, to be honest with you. Like there was stuff he came out and punched that he could have left for his defenders a couple of times. That they had it under control, but he didn't obviously trust them enough to deal with it. So that's never a good thing for you, is it? When your keeper and your defenders don't trust each other.
It's not, and that leads to mistakes, doesn't it? And to be fair, I didn't think they made too many mistakes themselves. We put them under a fair amount of pressure, and I didn't think they made too many mistakes. But yeah, that the delivery from Jack, we've seen it's the first man or it goes out. That's pretty much what. Yeah. There are,
and there's a collective groan around the stands.
Yeah, 1 in 10 or 1 in 15 will be spot on, but that's just not good enough.
Not this level.
And it feels like he's aiming for perfect with everyone. He's got to smash it, and he's got to get the whip on it. And it's so it reminds me. I mean, people will laugh at this because I never really rated him, but it reminds me of Roberto Carlos. Now he played in a great Brazil side and he played in great club teams. But if you look at his and that free kick that he scored in Le Tournoi is absolute world class. You don't get away from that. It absolutely is. But he only scored 1 in 100 efforts. It's just that when he did, it was an absolute worldie. Was better at free kicks
than Roberto Carlos.
Let's say that.
Okay.
More consistent with free kicks than Roberto Carlos, I'll say. But when Carlos's free kicks came off, they were all worldies. But because he was always aiming for a worldie, quite often, invariably, it didn't happen. So I think if we talk about just going back to Aronson and the fact that you were surprised that he was still on in the second half, who would you have made the change for, given the bench that we had?
God, that's a good question, to be honest with you.
Because if you think Rocker came on towards... Sinny's out. Jimmy came on, but Jimmy is a winger. For me, he's an out-and-out winger and not really an inside forward. So we had Willie on, we had Jackie on, and we had Aronson on. So, your options on the bench, well, we had JB, who could have come on in midfield. We had Rocker, but for me, I think with him coming back from injury, I think that the change being made for him really quite late on was to give him a bit of minutes. But for me, I think a full half probably wouldn't have been quite there. Otherwise, we'd have seen him a bit earlier.
Yeah, no, probably not. No one comes straight back and plays a full half, do they?
No. So, I think on that one, and Danny Rumsey in the comments just said exactly the point that I was just making. He's had brought Rocker on and pushed McKennie forward. Yeah, McKennie can certainly do that. You can have Rocker and Adam sitting and McKennie further forward. But as I say, I don't think we'd have got a full half out of Rocker. And if we did, that might have been a risk to him. And actually, we were so on top in the game that we didn't really need to take any risks. So I think maybe that's why we didn't see that change.
I'm with Danny. Read it out. Aronson is built like a Rizzler paper. That's what I said yesterday. I actually said he's like a silver Rizzler getting blown away.
So the only other one at that point potentially would have been Greenwood.
Well, Somerville was still on the bench at that point. So I would probably have brought
he was, but he is
at that moment.
He's an out-and-out winger, so that means that you have to put Jackie probably in that 10 role. And I'm not certain he's right. I'm not certain he's right for that. I think he can do it a bit better than Aronson can. I'd said right from the start. Actually, when Aronson were doing well early in the season, it was when he were on the right.
That's true.
So
I just wish he'd get a bit stronger, just bulk up a little. He's clearly got some talent there, but right now he's just like an headless chicken that runs around and doesn't actually achieve anything.
Yeah.
And, when he came in, we were all really positive, like, I've got this promising young up-and-coming attacking midfielder. He's only going to get better. He's going to be a great investment, and then he's done fuck all. And we've spent £60 million on Ruta and fucking Aronson. We could have bought someone like Ivan Toney and banged him up front for that money. You know what I mean? And fucking Dan James as well. What, 85 million or something all in? I mean, fuck me.
It's quite a lot, isn't it? So
it is a lot.
Somebody that we didn't spend a lot on, but you kind of touched upon it when we were talking about the first half. Is we did seem to in order to maintain possession and control, it seemed like we weren't quite as gung-ho in attack as we have been previously. I think if you look at Willie's game, he didn't really have the impact that we expect from him. And I know that there's going to be variability because of his age and his experience, but it didn't look like he was getting at his man. He'd get the ball, and actually what he'd do is he'd slow play it, and then he'd come back inside rather than running at him, which was probably, for me, the most marked difference in the approach to the game was when we got it to the wings. It wasn't right, I'm going to beat this man and I'm going to attack goal and I'm going to swing it in and I'm going to do it straight away. It was, we're going to maintain possession. And I think that's a fairly big deal. If you look at the possession stats we had under Bielsa and then compare that to Marsh, under Marsh, we didn't want the ball. What we wanted was to try and press our opponent into a mistake right up the pitch. And I touched on it earlier. They didn't really make a mistake yesterday. No. We had to force it in. I mean, the one thing you can say is the keeper let in a soft shot. But we've had that recently. And if you apply enough pressure, eventually something's going to break. But I didn't think they made any glaring errors. And for me, I think if we were still playing that game under Marsh, I don't think we'd have won it.
No, I don't. We wouldn't have been so disciplined under Marsh. We wouldn't have soaked up pressure and dictated the pace of the game as we did under Marsh, I don't think. We were very much a reactive team under Marsh than a team that were sort of putting our stamp on the game or dictating the tempo or anything like that. And I don't see that it would have achieved anything against those. I think it would have just been another panicked game where we're all worried. That would have filtered into the players. They'd have carried on being nervous as hell. And I don't think he could have done anything with that. I think it would have just been a disaster. I don't think we'd have won that game under him. Yeah, no, I totally agree. So I think from that, for me, if we look at the second half in totality, I think it's quite difficult because obviously we made the 3 subs. I think that to talk about the discipline, I didn't think Willie had a bad game. He didn't impress himself on the game as we've seen him do, but I think that's because he was asked to do something a little different. So I've just sent him that in a DM on Twitter. Now we'll get loads on.
That's fine. Jump on, people, if you want to have a say. It's been a long time since we've been able to talk about a victory. So
one thing from yesterday, Gilly, that I wanted to just pull up because it really irked me. Do you remember when Bamford got a foul against him for challenging the keeper for a ball that was loose in the air?
Yeah.
That's a foul, but Meslier bundled into the goal at Spurs by a player who's not the player playing the ball, looked at by VAR and upheld. Yeah. I mean,
and that's one of the games that we alluded to where we deserved more than we got out of it.
Who's coming up with this shit?
Yeah. Just one of the comments there. So Liam B, didn't you think their goalkeeper was slightly unsighted? So here's a really strange thing, and it was mentioned in Match of the Day. This is not just me seeing it, although I picked up on it from the stands. If you look at Bednarek, he's got an opportunity to go close down the ball when we've got it on the left wing. It then comes inside. He's got an opportunity to go close it down there.
Yeah.
And then it breaks to Firpo. And what he should be doing is busting a gut to get as close to Firpo as possible. And he just holds his position. And that position was right in front of Bazunu. And so, it was a bit unsighted. But it was straight at him. It went under him. Like I say, we've had a couple of them. And in fact, actually, if you look at Southampton and I want to say Newcastle, when who was it? The Voldemort scored against us, didn't he? And you know, those are the ones that actually Meslier should have been doing better with. And I know that James Ward-Prowse is decent, The one thing that I would say, actually, there's another similar comment there. Hang on. Where's that gone? Somebody said we did well to keep James Ward-Prowse quiet. I'm just having a look back through. I can't see it now.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, I think in terms of keeping him quiet, yeah, there we go. It with Danny. I don't think that James Ward-Prowse is a particularly good footballer. He's one of, if not the best, free kick taker currently playing in any of the top 5 leagues in Europe. I would say
he's an average workman-like style midfielder for me.
If
he didn't have that foot on him, he would not get any recognition.
He's somebody that you want to be able to play as a quarterback when you've got an attacking phase. Bring him on for a free kick or a corner, great, and then take him off because he's ineffectual in the game.
Yeah, exactly. Special teams like NFL bring him on just for certain things.
That's what I mean. Yeah. If you could do that with him, brilliant. You know that he would be really, really effective at doing that because he doesn't really get it, and he wasn't in the game. You know, he got the ball, but then he played an easy pass, and he didn't do much at all. He
was absolutely anonymous in that game, and I was so proud of our team for not giving him free kick opportunities because a normal Leeds performance, you'd have seen him get 3 chances at least.
Yeah, and I think that was really important. Yeah, that was really important.
With a referee that was dying to give free kicks against us, seemingly, they did really well. I mean, did you see? I don't know who it was. One of their players absolutely went through one of our players' ankles or something, and the ref didn't even give a free kick, let alone book him. I can't remember who it was now, but it was at the far side of the pitch in front of the West Stand. And he said nothing, just let it go, and nobody. I think that was Jackie. And the real frustration is about 10 seconds later, Adams did a lesser offence against one of their players in midfield, and he gave it as a free kick. That's right. Yeah. The one thing to touch on that, if you remember back to last season, I don't know if you remember the game. I know they come thick and fast at times, but I was surprised that Kyle Walker-Peters didn't start. And when he did get the ball against us, he went on a bit of a mazy run with it. And you're thinking, don't foul him. Or if you're going to foul him, do it on halfway line before he gets an edge of steam, and don't do it on edge at box. And he got to the edge of the box and we won the ball. But last season, he got to the edge of the box and he got fouled and they scored from it. Because that's what they do, is they win a free kick somewhere in an attacking area of the pitch and Ward-Prowse scores. And it was that, again, going back to your point on discipline, and not giving away those free kicks. Right, we've got a guest on at the moment, so we're just going to bring him in now. Sat patiently waiting in the green room.
Morning, Matt. How are we doing?
Yeah, good. Finally get a win. Finally something good to talk about. It's been ages.
It has been ages.
I hope you haven't got that bloody fan on, Matt.
No, it's off.
How'd you feel then?
Oh, great. Furpo, amazing.
What a guy. We all said it.
I mean, we've all said it all along, haven't we?
We've all been on the Furpo hype train here. Definitely haven't slagged him off ever.
No, never. Just one thing that I'd forgotten to call out. So, Nick G, Gilly was at you with the crowd on a live stream on TV yesterday. Yes, I am aware that I was on TV. I've not seen it myself, but I was absolutely wetting myself at Bella Kotchap kicking off about us not busting a gut to take our free kicks and corners as quickly as we could, even though they'd time wasted for the previous 77 minutes.
It was strangely edited out of the highlights package for some reason. We're not sure why.
Don't they know who I am? I guess just a reflection on the game yesterday, Matt.
I think we're all right. I don't think we were great. I think the win kind of makes us think we played better, but we needed the win, and you could tell it was 2 teams at the bottom of the league, scrappy. Harrison was better, still a bit. Can't beat the first man.
He had his moments.
Yeah. I mean, he got the assist, didn't he?
But if you look at his performance in the previous game, I think actually, if you look at the Scum game, I think he played really well. But then Everton was a really poor performance from him, and we do see that variability. I get that that's people's frustrations from him, but yeah, again yesterday he was better. You're right.
Mark Jones says, "Gilly big bollocks."
That was a very tongue-in-cheek. Do they know who I am? That wasn't serious. Who else stuck out for you, Matt?
I think Bamford was all right. I think he gets stick when he doesn't score, but I think he did well at hold up play. Aronson was good. He looked like a better player.
What?
Early on, he looked good. I don't know about
early on. I'll give you that. Early on.
Then his powers wore off, and he went.
That's 10 minutes that we've not had from him in previous games, though, isn't it?
That's true. Yeah, that is true. I thought Bamford worked really hard, actually, Matt. I thought he was very physical. He was always seemingly in the right place, and I thought he was going to get on the end of one of those balls over the top and put it away at some point. So I thought he did really well. To say he didn't get a goal, I thought he had a fairly good game.
I thought that could have been a penalty early on in the second half. I thought the guy stuck his leg, he stuck his leg out, and I swear he had a second go at it, and he tripped him.
Yeah, that
was right in front of us. I don't think any of us could understand why it wasn't given, and then we're all stood around going, "Well, okay, ball will go out, and then VAR will look at it." And the play just continued.
And that has happened to us probably 5 or 6 times now this season at home. I remember turning to the guy next to me and saying, "You're meant to get all the decisions when you're the home team. I don't think that's ever happened to us at Ellen Road."
If you remember last season at Ellen Road against Southampton, we should have had 3.
Yeah. So, what did you think about the way they came and set up and it appeared as if they were playing for a point, weirdly, Matt, and then they suddenly sped up when we scored?
They needed the win probably because they're bottom of the league, but then they just, I don't know, they're already down.
They look like they'd either accepted that or they'd come to just not get beaten up for best. They didn't come to win. I mean, are they that nervous that they daren't attack in case they get leathered at the back or what? I mean, they've just come off the back of beating Chelsea. They should have been full of confidence.
Anybody can do that.
Oh, yeah. I know.
Even we did that.
Careful, Gilly, because we've got to play them soon. But, I mean, they should have come full of confidence. The tails should have been up, and they didn't look like a team that had any confidence or any plan to win that game, for me. I thought it was odd, given that they needed a win more than we did, arguably. And they just didn't look like they came together.
Mm.
I mean, it's a big deal now that we've moved out of that bottom 3, and I think it's important that we don't get carried away. You know, it's by 1 point, and we don't have the games in hand that we had previously. I think we're just about equivalent with everybody except Chelsea now, which are right up the table. Is that right?
There we go.
Yeah, Chelsea the first above us, who were in 10th, to be on a different number of games. We're all on the same number of games now. Whereas for some time we were behind on games, aren't we, because of the Forest and the Scum game that got rearranged. Yeah. I think it's great that Bournemouth absolutely had their goal difference hammered again yesterday. Conceding 4 to Man City, that's not a bad thing.
I had this awful feeling they'd get a draw or something out of that game and it'd be like a freak result. But thank God they didn't.
I think if you look at, West Ham's result, and you look at West Ham and Moyes, and they've had a difficult time of it. But I guess it is a bit of a freak result then winning 4-0 when it was 0-0 at half time.
Yeah.
That seems a bit mad. But they were all 0-0 at half time, weren't they? And then if you look at the end, the outcome in the end, Leicester got beat at home, Everton got beat at home. That's not bad.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
And then Forest getting battered.
Drew the other night.
Yeah, so Forest's goal difference now is worse than Southampton's, and only Bournemouth's is worse. So if they get sucked back into it, that's a big deal. And we're only 3 points behind Forest now.
Matt,
and Forest are in 13th.
Are we staying up, Matt?
Yes.
Go on. Now we can blame you if we don't.
We'll say this, and then we'll lose 2 in a row, and then we will be back down to earth.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, we could feasibly lose the Chelsea and Brighton games, and if we did, it'd be shit, but I won't be mega upset as long as we got something out of the Wolves game.
Well, there's Wolves, and then there's Arsenal away, which is going to be really tough, but then it's Forest, and that Forest game is becoming more and more important as we get closer to it, isn't it?
Yeah, if we win that one, we could pull them back in. And that's
well, as I say, we're 3 points behind them. So if we equate ourselves to their results, and I think if you look at the fixtures of the sides around us, I think there's a lot of games that the sides towards the bottom of the table are playing against the current top six.
Yeah,
Arsenal at the moment, their run of fixtures, they've got Everton and then Bournemouth, and then Fulham that are right up there somehow. They're playing a few sides that are in and around us, and obviously then us. So that's one. I think one of the things, and I don't want to reflect too much on Marsh's time, but one of the things that we have done under him is we didn't ever look at any point where we were going to get absolutely pummeled. And that's meant that our goal difference is better than a lot of those sides around us. West Ham's and Leicester's aside, they're only in single figures of minuses. I think we had a -10. Everybody else around us is much worse.
What was our goal difference this time last season? It was something
a nightmare,
absolutely horrendous, wasn't it?
An absolute nightmare.
Was this the point where we'd conceded more goals than anyone else ever in the Premier League?
I think so. By that point. We had. If you remember, we had a really awful February, didn't we?
Yeah.
Where we just got back. So
I miss Bielsa, but I don't miss the drubbins.
Rather than focusing on the drubbins, let's focus on the positives. We haven't had a lot of matches where we lost control to such an extent that our goal difference took a battering, like Bournemouth yesterday against Man City. Looking at the highlights of their game, that could and should have been another 3 or 4 goals that they conceded. And Man City are perfectly capable of doing that. So it's a shame. But you're right. There's always that. Gail said to me yesterday that Man City have got a poor result in them. And I think they've lost more games now by this point in the season than they have in the last 3 or 4 seasons. I mean, they're still in. I think they're in second out there, so they're still in with a shout at the title. But against previous seasons, they've had a poor one. So it was good to see Bournemouth get put to the slaughter. Obviously, Southampton keeping them on the bottom of the table were important for us.
After the week before's results, where everything went against us, it was nice to something go our way. Yeah, and it does show you it is just swings and roundabouts for the rest of the season. There's going to be good weekends and bad weekends. It's just the way it is. We just have to take care of ourselves.
Nick's just popped up there. 5-2's been our worst this season. I think that's the one that sticks out for me. I wasn't sure that were Brentford away, wasn't it? Where Koch handed them 3 goals on a plate, and then Llorente decided to do a Cruyff turn and just play him in.
I always loved when he did that. Every time he came on, I was waiting for him to try the Cruyff turn in his own area with a player bearing down on him, because that's what he did every fucking time. When he first came to Leeds, I quite liked him, and over time, I grew to fucking hate him. I didn't want to see him on the pitch.
He played really well in his first season with us.
He did. He had a proper coach then, though.
Well, that's true. But do you know what? I will be interested to see how he does under Mourinho, because I think he's got that bit of shithousery in him that Mourinho needs to see from his players. And I'll be interested to see how he gets on.
League now, so he's probably more suited to it. He'll get
maybe so.
More time to do his
and he is good on the ball. You know, that was the one thing that you can't take away from him. He's good on the ball. It's the madness of decision making that's his downfall. His capability on the ball. His technical capability was good enough, so that'll be good to see. So just coming back to Saints then, question for you both. I'll come to you first, Matt. Players that you would take out of the Southampton side and put into ours. Are there any? Who would there be?
None. Ward Prowse for the bench.
Jay?
Possibly Walker Peters in the squad, but that's about it.
Those are my only 2.
I remember when people were clambering for us to get Shea Adams, that's gone quiet, hasn't it? Don't need him now.
Well, yeah, but we also spent a record amount on a forward. So
who actually had probably his best appearance in the Leeds shirt yesterday when he came.
I would agree.
He looked a lot more solid. He's been so lightweight and looked like a big guy just getting pushed around like he shouldn't be up to this point. And he looked more comfortable in his own self and his role yesterday. He looked more like he knew what he was supposed to be doing, what was expected of him. And that gives me a bit of hope that he might actually come good.
Yeah, I think the other thing as well is focusing on Ruta a bit. Is he looks like he's got the capability of just getting a touch on the ball and nodding it on to someone. But actually, what we were seeing in previous games is nobody were getting beyond him. So if you look at Bamford's strength is occupying defenders and laying the ball off behind him.
Yeah.
Towards the halfway line, and then he'll get on the half turn and want a ball in the channel. Whereas Ruta's not that. Ruta looks to be able to get in front of a man and get a knock on, but you've already got to have somebody bombing past you for that to have any effect at all.
Yeah,
Otherwise, the defender just takes the ball and
back to him.
Yeah. So I do have a little bit of sympathy if that's his strength and his way of playing, and he's got to learn a different way of playing, which moving into a new side, especially a side that might be struggling and has a way of playing already, is you've got to be able to adapt your game, and he's only a young lad. So I do have a little bit of sympathy there, but we've got to use our players to their strengths, and that's where coaching becomes all important.
That's right.
So I'll be interested to see how we adapt and how we approach that just going forwards.
I'm surprised that there isn't more emphasis on coaching, because since transfer windows became a thing, you've got what you've got in between, and the coach is the only person that can make a difference or get more out of a player. So I'm surprised that you still get people like Marsh, etc., who don't really seem to coach players. They just coach tactics. Like, you want to improve players, you want to make them feel.
He didn't improve any of them, did he?
No.
Well, I suppose the only one you could potentially say is Rodrigo, because of his goals.
But he's
but that's just because of his output, not.
He's had flashes at other times, so you don't know if that is down to Marsh or what. I don't know.
So there's quite a few. I'm not going to pop any of them up because there's a few people have said it is Lavia in their midfield. I think the one thing I would say about that is probably. But again, I'd be looking at the bench because I don't think he gets in front of any of our midfield three. I think Adams, McKennie, and Rocker would all be in front of him.
Good for squad strengthening, but he's not going to start for us.
Yeah. So no, that's that's fair. So I think we'd already touched upon it, Jay, but I've not asked you the straight out question. Who was your man of the match for us yesterday?
Oh, it's got to be the legend himself, Junior Firpo, hasn't it? I mean, he got the goal, he made the breakthrough, and he worked his ass off. He
did work his ass off. Yeah, I'll give you that. Matt?
Yeah, Firpo. I thought I would have given man of the match before the goal, but the goal just topped it off.
You would have said Firpo without the goal?
Yeah, I thought he was good defensively, and I thought he was really good at left back.
Yeah.
Fair enough. What do you think of Somerville when he had the opportunity, when he could have passed to Jackie and he didn't? Would you guys have passed?
He should have passed.
He should have passed.
I thought it was in. If he scores it, nobody ever even thinks that he should have squared it. No. But he should have squared it.
He should have squared it. It were on a plate if he squared it.
It was.
And one thing Harrison can do is strike a ball at goal.
Well, yeah, especially unmarked. How far out were he? I mean, I know it was Accrington, but you still got to finish it. If you're unmarked, it doesn't matter who you're playing against, does it?
No.
He was stood on his own. Well, the reason, air shots. We've had a couple of them recently.
My heart was in my mouth as well. Sorry, Matt. My heart was in my mouth as well when we had that sort of back pass and Melia headed it. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Do you know? I was just about to mention that. Well, you said about their keeper looking a bit nervous at points. I shit myself when that happened. And then it went for a corner, and you're thinking, if he'd have just caught that, nobody's giving a back pass with that one. It was flying at him, and it was. Did not
one
come
of those
from
where you're like, there's a sharp intake of breath in the entire ground, and you're like,
yeah. And didn't it come from a deflection or a tackle anyway? No,
I think he just hit it and it went the other way. I don't know what he tried to do.
Yeah, I think he just whacked it and it went back the other way. And he headed it instead of catching it. Fuck knows why he did that. Imagine if he missed it. Jesus Christ.
And all because of a back pass that none of us felt would have been given anyway.
It would have been a very different feeling today if that had happened. I mean,
it really would.
hell.
And yet it went for a corner, and you're thinking, "Oh God, they're going to score from this now." It shouldn't have been a corner. It should have just been an easy catch.
Another Leeds United gift.
Yeah.
You're just thinking, "Oh shit, here we go."
Yeah. But yeah, so Mark just points out here that was proper shithousery towards Harrison at the end. I'd have put Fiery Jack in his undies just for that. Fair. But yeah, talking about the shithousery, you know, McKennie and the strength that we alluded to earlier on in that rundown of the clock towards the end. I mean, the fact that the ref only gave 1 minute of injury time in the first half.
What was that about? I forgot about that.
At one point, their keeper had the ball for 3 minutes. And we got 1 minute, but they got 5 minutes in the second half because we were in front. That's what it felt like, wasn't it?
There was like 3 stoppages for injuries in the first half.
The guy doing up his shoe took like a minute.
Yeah, exactly. They tried every trick in the book.
Absolutely.
And it came back to bite them. Even 5 minutes didn't get them anything. But fuck me, the Raw, like when they said 5 minutes, everyone like, what the corrupt.
And that was because of the 1 minute. I think if that 1 minute had been 3 minutes, we'd have been less annoyed by the 5 minutes at the end of the second half.
Yeah.
It just felt like Leeds are winning. Shit, we better give these a chance. Because the way that the same match officials could watch that first half and give a minute, then watch that second half and give 5. Again, it just highlights the lack of consistency with officiating. Like, and I think who came up with that, and how is it justified? Do they have to look at report and explain why they gave the times that they gave, or is it just like, oh well, that's what ref decided?
I'm not certain because I think the way that the manager is, he has one watch on one wrist and one watch on another one, and he'll stop the other one when there's stoppages that he thinks that he needs to take into account.
Is that what they do?
The difference between the two is the number of minutes injury time that he signals, because it's not somebody off the pitch that does the timings. It's the ref himself. And so then the ref tells.
And he's got one watch on this wrist, one watch on that wrist, and he can't fucking read either of them.
Yeah, pretty much.
Basically.
So the ref then signals to the fourth official what number of minutes added on as a minimum, and that's another point. It is a minimum of, and in that minute of added time at the end of the first half, they went down during that minute. And we still only had a minute.
I remember that.
Yeah, Liam points out that there's supposed to be 30 seconds for each sub. So not each individual substitution being made, but each period, because they can bring multiple subs on. I think there's 3 subs, the 3 sub windows, but 5 players that can change. Yeah. So there's a minute and a half max for each side, and then another 30 seconds for any goal. So yeah, you can see how you get to 5 minutes, but as I said, the frustration is that we only had 1 minute when it was 0-0 and we were on top.
Yeah, like the 5 minutes in itself probably was about right. Probably was, you could justify it with the stoppages we had. It's just because of that 1 minute, like you say.
It's the context, isn't it?
There's no justifying that. There should have been at least 2.
Yeah,
I said 3 probably, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think it is important that the players that we have can maintain that control, and if you look at as I said with McKennie and especially Ruta, the touches and the maintaining of possession, it was right in front of me in North East Lower in that corner, and you could see that they weren't worried at all. And the one thing that I would say, and I don't know if it's because there's the new coach come in and is in now, and probably a bit of relief from the players, certainly some relief from the coaching staff, because the coaching staff themselves, I know that we had one that were kind of in the foreground in Scooby-Doo, but all 3 of them would have felt the pressure, because the media were talking about this trifecta of coaches that were taking on the first team responsibility. That's a lot of responsibility with no experience as a first team manager. Especially in the Premier League. Exactly. It was a position they were put in. And Skubala, right from the start, said, I'll go back to doing my other job. Now, he hasn't. He's been retained as a first-team coach rather than youth coach. But, it was always in his mind that this was not a permanent thing for him, certainly. So having somebody come in, and let's be honest, he's got a boatload of experience and a boatload of experience of coming into sides, because if you look at the number of sides he's coached now, there's good and bad in that because he's not had a long time at many of those clubs. But he's well versed to coming into a side. And when sides make changes, it's because they're struggling or it's because they need something different. And therefore, actually, what you hope is he's able to impress his ideas quite quickly because he's going to be used to that. And I think we saw that there was definitely a shift in people's willingness to take the ball. I reflected at full time on McKennie. McKennie always makes himself available for the ball. Yeah. Adams has done that all season, but having somebody else in there that's willing to do that as well is a big deal. Rocker does the same, but he's been out for a period now, and he's coming back in and having a midfield three all willing to take the ball regardless of what's going on and then look after it is a big deal. And just in that closing period, I felt that McKennie and Ruta and the touches that Ruta showed, there were a period when there were three people trying to take the ball off him right on the edge of their box, and they couldn't get it off him, and it were brilliant. That's exactly what we needed to take the pressure off the side. In that final period where it were all a bit frantic, and that's always a bit of a leveler. And they came more into the game because they were actually trying to do something in the game. And retaining possession, especially in their defensive third, were a big deal. And the confidence that I think will come from that, not just the 3 points, but the fact that we were able to impress ourselves on a game, and the fact that the subs that we made actually bred some positivity. If you think against the Scum, when we took Jackie and Paddy off, and Ruta and Aronson came on.
We lost all our edge.
We did, and that's very different opposition. They are literally the worst side in the Premier League this season. But I think that were a massive deal, and certainly there'll be some confidence to come from that.
Yeah, the subs that you could see like a difference between the subs that Scoobs was making and the subs that Grazia as a experienced head coach was making. Like, he knew when to make the subs and who to put on at the right time. It seemed more measured than Scoobs probably just thinking we just need some fresh legs. If you know what I mean, if that makes sense.
And Marsh making a 1-for-1 change and not actually changing anything, just trying to do the same things with different personnel.
I don't want to talk about him anymore.
There was a moment towards the end where we took a throw into Ruta, and their players screamed at the linesman that it was offside. How can you be offside for throwing?
To be fair, Matt, with the level of linesmen we've got now, they'd probably have been confused when they said that. They wouldn't know what's going on.
Matt flagged.
Like, shit, do I
better put my flag up?
What's ref saying? What's ref telling me to do?
Yeah.
So just to touch on now, what I have worked out, and I should have worked it out well before now, is on the BBC website. Actually, the player ratings are based on people's reactions to the game. So it's a vote of people using the website rather than somebody that's working in media or whatever that's not necessarily a Leeds fan. So this is more the fans than anything else. But Firpo was given the man of match just ahead of Ruta, which is really unusual for a sub, I would say. So people are really really positive about that. And then it was Verba. Interestingly, Koch was about 6th. Now, I thought in the second half his impact on the game was less, but I think that's because we weren't asked to do a lot in defence. The way that they were playing the game changed. They took off their big lump up front. They kind of, they still weren't playing well, but there were very much for me a difference in they weren't just trying to lump it straight up. They were trying to get through midfield. They brought on Walker Peters and a couple of others really to Armstrong as well came on. I mean, that were a bit later on, but Walker Peters came on at 71 minutes, and I think that was to try and have possession in transition rather than just getting it long and trying to build from there, which really wasn't working. I thought that that we marshalled them really well in the first half, and then they didn't really offer anything in the second half until towards the end.
I agree with that. Got to agree with that.
So it's difficult to then judge how defence does when you're so in control of a game.
Yeah. It was nice, though, wasn't it, to see us dictate a game for a change?
Yeah.
It's been a long while since we've done that.
It has. I don't think we've done that since Chelsea.
No, probably haven't. And I really enjoyed the fact we shithoused and time wasted at the end, keeping the ball in the corner.
It's delicious, isn't it? Especially against a side like that.
Yeah. The guy next to me was like, Bielsa would never have allowed this. It's just been, no, you must try and score a goal. There are still seconds left to play. Sometimes you've just got to do it. There were too much at stake to take any risks in that game.
I think somebody, plenty in the comments, I think, touched on the fact that, and you said it right at the outset, is it was a must-win. And I think it was a must-win. I think for me, Everton was a must-not-lose, and we did lose. Yeah. But maintaining parity with them was all important, and we failed to do that. Yesterday was a must-win. Maintaining parity with bottom of the league sees you finish second bottom of the league. It's not good enough.
Yeah, and yesterday was just a must-win, not just because of the situation of us versus Southampton, where we're in the table, but the complexion of the next few games changes off the back of it. Yeah. If we'd come in and we'd got a new coach and we still lost and nothing's worked and we've tried replacing manager, that hasn't helped, and what are we going to do now? It's doom and gloom. But it's come in, we've started with a win, and it doesn't matter how we got the win, we've got a win. And it just changes the complexion of the next games. It leaves me feeling like we might get something out of Chelsea, we might get something out of Brighton. If we'd lost another game, me and I think the players probably would have gone in there thinking, oh shit, we're still
where's those points coming from?
We've changed the manager, it hasn't worked, what are we going to do? What else can we do? But now we're all positive again, at least for a week.
Yeah. And we've got distraction, luxury. It's difficult to see which it is at the moment, but we've got Fulham in the cup, which that's a break away from the league. It's an opportunity. All right, it's deeper in it's an opportunity to go deep into the competition than we have for years and years. In fact, we are beyond where we've been for a good number of years.
I was going to ask you this. How much emphasis would you put on the cup run at this point? Because for me, it has to come second, regardless of how far we've got.
I think so. I think the context around the coach coming in. I think the words flexible contract have been bandied around quite a bit, and I think that's reflective of the position he's come into of survival at all costs. And I think a lot of
can probably break it at the end.
Yeah, and for me, I think he'll have bonuses built on survival, but equally probably maintaining his job at all.
Strong chance of getting fuck all if we go down.
Yeah. So I think on that, the emphasis is so clearly Premier League survival is everything. If you look at, on the main podcast, we talked about when the transfer window was closing, we talked about the fact that Bournemouth can go and bully sides across Europe for their best players, simply because they're in the Premier League. Yeah. They're playing in front of what? I think yesterday the crowd that they played in front of against the champions was 10,500 people.
Jesus Christ!
It's absolutely terrible. Now, I don't know how many Man City took away because it's a long way to go, but it was a 3 o'clock kickoff, and you would expect them to be able to sell out.
Man City their fans don't even turn up for home games, Gilly, so they're going to go fucking Bournemouth, are they?
But no, I think if you look at their core fans that have been there throughout, I think they'll be there all the time, and I think their away support probably travels pretty well. Even though you've got lots of tourism going on game day when they're at home. But 10,500 people to see them play against the current reigning champions is just abject, isn't it?
It's terrible.
But yet they can go across Europe and cherry pick the best players from sides that aren't winning titles, but any other team pretty much is their prey. They can hunt in those waters purely because they are present in the Premier League and the money that goes along with that.
And that kind of thing has made the Premier League harder.
Yeah,
for everybody.
It has. Oh, yeah. It's much more competitive, and it's the strongest league in the world. You can't get away from that, from revenue, from personnel. But I think on reflection of that becomes all important is the survival piece, because you've got to be at the table. and you get out of that table and the other side's like you, Bournemouth. Look at Fulham. You know, the ability to attract players for Fulham will be night and day compared to what they had previously, because they're pushing for Europe, and that's what players want, and they want to be able to come and show what they can do in the Premier League, in the bid that they get a Liverpool contract, a Man City contract, or whatever else.
Exactly. Players do use clubs as stepping stones, and if you can benefit off that, I don't see a big deal with that. If somebody is a massive talent and they come to you on the basis that they'll give you seasons, and then they'll want to go somewhere that they've got their heart set on, long as they don't burn the bridges and they are arseholes about it, I don't have a problem with that. You know what I mean? As long as they're not disrespecting your club and your badge, then I don't. I mean,
to be fair, Rafinha can get in the bin now, because although I loved him, the comments I did see was, "Oh yeah, my favourite clubs outside of Spain are PSG and Arsenal." Well, fuck you then.
So basically, he did keep us up. Pay him a lot of money if he moves.
Yeah. But it did keep us up, so we'll do that.
He did cross the pitch on his knees, so.
Oh, Matt, there's a question I'm going to have to ask you here, I'm afraid. Smarty's pulled something out here. Can we address the elephant in the room, please, and get Matt Leeds to tell us why he has a red chair?
Just say it was cheap, Matt. Just say it was cheap.
It was, yeah.
There you go. Don't let Smarty bully you. Fuck's sake.
I mean, Smarty put a right target on his own back with that Matt's avoided.
fucking did, didn't he?
Yeah. Cool.
We'll say no more about
that. I think just to pull it to a close, I think for me, obviously the biggest thing was the 3 points. It was a must achieve 3 points from that game. We did. It's something to build on for the new coach. I think I'm interested to see how the likes of Rutter and Aronson that have struggled a little bit, how they react to that new coach coming in. It'll be really interesting. Potter's under a lot of strain, a lot of pressure at the moment. I like the guy.
Sorry, you've reminded me. I was going to ask you this. Sorry to interject.
No, you're all right.
What are the chances of our luck that they get hammered today and Potter gets sacked and they have a new manager bounce when we play them?
I think that would make it about 4 or 5 sides that would have a new manager bounce against us this season. I think for me, he's under a lot of pressure. If they bring somebody else in, I can't see that's going to benefit them quickly enough. So I think for me, it's an interesting one. He's come out and said that he's got the backing now quite often. What that is a signal of nearing the end. He's talking about mental health. He's talking about the impact to his family. And I think I said in the
go well when that starts.
It doesn't. But equally, I don't know if anybody heard it, but 5 Live talked to Moyes after their game. And he was asked about the strain that he'd been under and the strain just Premier League managers in general are under. And his response was really quite something, because he turned it back round, because the question actually was, is this part of the game now? And he said, no, it's nothing to do with the game. The game is the game, and the game has always been the game, and it'll always be the game. No, what you people in the media do is you invite people to come onto a talk show and talk about whether somebody's the right person in the job and whether that person should be fired. And actually, the media themselves are culpable for a lot of the strain that they put individuals under, and they are people at the end of the day. I thought that was a perfect response.
And the way they whip up fucking controversy and bad feeling and.
We'll talk about our the son. I've said this enough. They can get in the bin. So I thought that was a perfect response from David Moyes, because he's been under massive amounts of pressure as well. If you look at the side and the squad that they've got, all right, yesterday they got a 4-0 win against somebody that's down and around us. But Cooper's done a really good job, I think, so far this season as well. And I think if you look at the pressure that Moyes has been under, that'll have been a massive relief yesterday. But it was a brilliant response to the question that you were asked as well. So just to wrap up. So anything else to add, J Matt?
Nothing from me, mate. Just interested to see what team we put out against Fulham. what system we play, to be honest, and take it from there.
Yeah, cool. Matt, anything?
Not really. No, I did.
Cool. No,
You can
that's
stick your
fine.
fan back on now, Matt.
That's fine. No worries. Thanks to everybody that's got involved in the comments. As always, go like, go subscribe. And just as a touch on that subscribe, we do have a competition running at the moment. It's the last chance to get involved before the next main podcast. It is an opportunity to win a Leeds shirt. So go and subscribe to our YouTube channel to make yourself available to win the shirt. Thanks very much to everybody. And thanks very much to you two for joining me. And let's go have a decent Sunday dinner for me. I'm going to go have a big roast dinner. So enjoy the rest of your weekends with 3 points in the bag. See you later.